I am 27, need advice about my current situation with my girlfriend Nicole, F26. A bit of background first, we met 6 years ago during our final year at university through my best friend Steven. Steven and I lived together in student housing and Nicole lived next door with her roommates. Steven knew Nicole from their shared economics classes and introduced us at a house party. I felt an instant connection with her but didn't act on it because she was dating Tom, her high school sweetheart, at the time. Over the years, Nicole and I stayed good friends through our friend group. We hung out almost every weekend with Steven and others, went on group trips, and celebrated holidays together. I watched her relationship with Tom fall apart after 4 years when he cheated on her with a coworker. I was there to support her through that breakup but still didn't make a move since she was vulnerable. She dated a few other guys casually after that while I dated other people too, but my feelings for her never went away. 7 months ago, Nicole and I finally got together after years of what our friends called obvious mutual pining. It happened at Steven's wedding where we were both part of the wedding party. After a few drinks and slow dances, we ended up talking all night about our feelings and shared our first kiss. The timing wasn't perfect since I was working in a different city 3 hours away, but we decided to try long distance. The first 2 months were challenging but we made it work through daily video calls and weekend visits. I had already been looking for better job opportunities and found a great position in her city that was also a step up in my career. While the relationship was a factor, the move made sense professionally too. After moving in together, everything was perfect. Nicole and I discovered we're incredibly compatible in ways I never imagined. We have similar sleeping schedules, share household responsibilities easily, enjoy cooking together, and have the same ideas about finances and future goals. My family absolutely adores her and her parents have practically adopted me as their son. Even my usually pessimistic sister says we're perfect together. However, something has been eating at me for months now. During those first 2 months of long distance, before we had officially defined our relationship, Nicole went on a cruise alone. It was a trip she had booked months before we got together, meant to celebrate completing her MBA. During the cruise, she mentioned in our calls that she met this guy Mark who was part of her dinner table group. She talked about him casually, saying they were hanging out with other solo travelers on the ship. After she returned, she told me that she and Mark had flirted a bit but assured me nothing serious happened. Since we hadn't had the exclusivity talk yet, I tried to be understanding despite feeling hurt. I didn't press for details because I was afraid of coming across as controlling so early in the relationship. But about a month later, I discovered through her friend Amy that there was more to the story. We were all hanging out at a bar when Amy, who had a few too many drinks, started teasing Nicole about her cruise romance. When I acted confused, Amy spilled everything. Apparently, on the last day during the flight back, Mark and Nicole got quite physical. They were sitting together and he was caressing her neck, running his fingers through her hair, and touching her thighs. Nicole even asked him to bite her arm playfully, saying just don't leave any visible marks. I felt sick hearing this. The thought of Nicole, who I had feelings for all these years, being intimate with another guy while we were dating, even if not exclusively, really hurt. When I confronted Nicole about this later that night, she got extremely defensive and started crying hysterically. She said she had been confused about our relationship status because of the distance and wasn't sure if things would work out between us. According to her, she was scared of fully committing because her previous relationships had ended badly. Nicole claimed nothing more happened beyond what Amy told me, but her extreme emotional reaction and refusal to discuss details made me suspicious. Every time I tried to talk about it, she would either start crying or shut down the conversation saying I had all the information I needed to make a decision about our relationship. Since then, we've been living together and everything seems perfect on the surface. Nicole is loving, attentive, and puts effort into making our relationship work. She plans thoughtful dates, gets along great with my friends and family, and supports my career goals. But I can't stop thinking about what happened with Mark. Every time we're intimate or when she touches me affectionately, my mind goes back to her and Mark on that plane. The image of her asking another guy to bite her while we were dating haunts me. These thoughts are affecting our intimacy. Sometimes when we're in bed and she runs her fingers through my hair or caresses my arm, I freeze up thinking about how she did the same things with Mark. I find myself wondering if she was more attracted to him, if she thinks about him when she's with me, or if there were other things that happened on the cruise that she's not telling me. I love Nicole deeply and honestly believe she's the one for me. I don't want to throw away our relationship over something that happened when we weren't officially exclusive. But these intrusive thoughts keep eating at me and affecting how I interact with her. Every time I try to bring it up to process my feelings, Nicole either breaks down crying or dismisses the conversation saying there's nothing more to discuss. I don't know what to do anymore. Should I just try to forget it happened and focus on how good our relationship is now? Or are these feelings going to keep festering and eventually destroy what we have? I need advice on how to handle this situation without ruining the best relationship I've ever had. Update 1: Things got significantly more complicated after my last post. Nicole noticed I was being distant and acting different during our usual couple activities. Last weekend, instead of our regular movie night cuddles, I sat at the other end of the couch. When she tried to hold my hand during our morning coffee ritual, I would find excuses to get up or move away. She finally confronted me about it yesterday. Nicole sat me down after dinner and asked what was wrong. She said she'd noticed how I barely touch her anymore and hardly look at her when we talk. I finally opened up about how much the Mark incident was affecting me. Instead of crying like before, Nicole got angry. She said I was being ridiculous about something that happened before we were serious and accused me of trying to control her past. During our heated argument, she revealed something that made everything worse. Apparently, she's still in contact with Mark. They've been following each other on Instagram since the cruise and occasionally interact through likes and comments. She claimed it was completely innocent, just two people who met on vacation staying casually connected through social media. When I asked to see their conversations, she refused, saying I was being controlling and that she had a right to privacy. The situation escalated when I went through her Instagram activity. I know it wasn't right, but I couldn't help myself, and found she had liked several of his recent vacation photos, including some shirtless beach pictures from his trip to Greece. There were flirty comments from her on his posts like "looks like paradise" and "making us all jealous here." When I confronted her about the comments, she accused me of stalking her social media activity. She said I was being obsessive and needed to trust her more. She brought up how I never had issues with her staying friends with Tom, her ex of 4 years, so why was I so threatened by someone she knew for just a week on a cruise? Our mutual friends are divided on this situation. Steven thinks I'm overreacting and says social media interactions don't mean anything. He reminded me how Nicole chose to be with me and even moved in together. But Amy, who originally told me about the plane incident, says she understands my concerns. According to her, Nicole had talked about having an intense connection with Mark during the cruise, something Nicole never mentioned to me. Last night, things reached a breaking point. Nicole was in the shower when her phone lit up with a notification. I saw Mark's name pop up with a message preview asking if she wanted to catch up since he would be in our city next month for a business conference. Nicole hadn't mentioned anything about this to me. I didn't open the message to read more, but when she got out of the shower, I asked her about it. She immediately got defensive and accused me of spying on her phone. She said she hadn't told me about Mark's upcoming visit because she knew I would overreact like this. According to her, he just wanted to grab coffee and catch up as friends. She said she hadn't even decided if she would meet him and was planning to discuss it with me first. We had a massive argument about boundaries and trust. Nicole said I was being insecure and controlling by monitoring her social media and phone notifications. I told her she was being disrespectful of our relationship by maintaining secret contact with someone she had an intimate encounter with. She countered that it wasn't a secret, she just didn't tell me because I get irrationally jealous whenever Mark's name comes up. This morning was incredibly tense. We barely spoke while getting ready for work. Nicole usually kisses me goodbye before leaving, but today she just walked out without saying anything. I received a text from her during lunch saying she needs space to think about whether she can be with someone who doesn't trust her. I feel lost. Part of me thinks I'm being paranoid and potentially ruining a great relationship over something that happened before we were exclusive. But another part feels like Nicole is gaslighting me by dismissing my concerns and making me seem like the unreasonable one. The fact that she's maintained regular contact with Mark all this time without telling me feels like a betrayal of trust. Steven called me during lunch break and said I need to get over my insecurities if I want to keep Nicole. He thinks I'm creating problems in an otherwise perfect relationship. But Amy texted saying I should trust my gut and that Nicole's behavior seems suspicious. She mentioned that Nicole had been acting weird lately, being very protective of her phone and taking calls outside. I don't know what to do anymore. Is it unreasonable to expect Nicole to cut contact with Mark? Am I being controlling by feeling uncomfortable about their ongoing communication? Or are my concerns valid? She's still not home from work and hasn't responded to my messages. I'm worried this might be the beginning of the end for us. Update 2: I wish I could say things got better, but everything has fallen apart even more. After our big fight about Mark's messages, Nicole and I reached an uneasy truce. She promised to be more open about her communications with him, and I tried to work on my trust issues. But things took a turn when Mark came to town for his business conference. Nicole told me she was going to meet him for coffee to catch up as friends. I wasn't happy about it but didn't want to seem controlling. However, I found out through Amy that they didn't just have coffee. Amy saw them at a restaurant having dinner and drinks. According to her, they looked very cozy and were there for several hours. When Nicole came home that night, she only mentioned having a quick coffee meetup. I confronted her with what Amy had told me, and finally, the truth started coming out. Nicole admitted she'd lied about the dinner but said she didn't tell me because she knew I would get upset. During our argument, she finally revealed the full truth about what happened on the cruise. Apparently, she and Mark had kissed multiple times during the cruise, not just the one incident on the plane that I knew about. They had spent several nights together at the ship's bar, dancing and making out. She claimed they never slept together but admitted they had gotten pretty physical. She also confessed they had been texting regularly since then, though she insisted it was purely platonic. The worst part came 2 days ago. Nicole fell asleep on the couch while watching TV, and her phone kept buzzing with messages. I know I shouldn't have, but I checked her phone. The messages were from Mark, and what I found made me sick. They had been reminiscing about their time on the cruise, with Mark suggesting they should go on another one sometime. He called her his ship romance and referenced several intimate moments they shared that Nicole had never told me about. Nicole's responses were flirty and ambiguous. She told him she often thought about their moonlit adventures and how much fun they had together. When he suggested meeting up again when he's next in town, she replied with "that would be nice," followed by a winking emoji. I couldn't stay in the house after reading those messages. I packed some clothes and went to stay at Steven's place. Even Steven, who had previously defended Nicole, agreed that her behavior was inappropriate after I showed him screenshots of the conversations. Nicole has been calling and texting constantly, saying I'm misinterpreting everything. She claims her messages with Mark were just friendly banter and that she never physically cheated since we moved in together. She says she only maintains contact with him because she doesn't want to be rude, and that I'm blowing everything out of proportion. Yesterday, she sent me a long message saying she's willing to block Mark and go to couples counseling if I come back home. She said she realizes now that maintaining contact with him was disrespectful to our relationship. But I don't know if I can trust anything she says anymore. Each time I discover something new, it gets worse than what she initially told me. The hardship of the situation is really hitting me now. I'm still staying at Steven's place, trying to figure out what to do next. Amy told me she feels guilty for not telling me sooner that Nicole and Mark's cruise relationship was more serious than what Nicole had admitted. Apparently, Nicole had told her friends at the time that she had a hard time choosing between Mark and me when she got back from the cruise. I feel like such a fool. All those months of Nicole dismissing my concerns and making me feel crazy for being suspicious, she was lying the whole time. I don't know how to move forward from this. Every time I think about going back home, I imagine her texting Mark as soon as things calm down again. The worst part is that I still love her, but I don't think I can ever trust her again. How can I believe anything she says when she's been lying about Mark for our entire relationship? I'm starting to look for my own apartment now. I think it's time to accept that what I thought was a perfect relationship was built on lies from the very beginning. Update 3: I finally moved out permanently last week. After staying at Steven's place and taking time to think things through, I realized I couldn't trust Nicole anymore. The constant trickle-truthing about what happened on the cruise and her ongoing contact with Mark destroyed any faith I had in our relationship. Nicole tried everything to get me to come back. She sent long messages about how much she loves me and how she realized she made a huge mistake. She even shared screenshots showing she had blocked Mark on all social media platforms. She suggested couples counseling and offered to give me complete access to her phone and social media accounts to rebuild trust. But what Nicole didn't know was that Amy had told me something that made reconciliation impossible. Right after I moved out temporarily, Nicole had met up with Mark again. He was back in town for another business trip, and they spent an entire evening together at a hotel bar. Amy saw them there and said they were holding hands and looking very intimate. Nicole never mentioned this meeting during any of her attempts to reconcile. When I confronted Nicole about this latest meeting, she broke down and admitted everything. She said she was confused and hurt when I left, and meeting Mark was a mistake. She claimed nothing physical happened, but at this point, I don't believe anything she says anymore. The most shocking part came when she finally admitted why she really kept in contact with Mark. Apparently, during the cruise, they had talked about how their lives would be different if they had met each other before meeting other people. Even after getting serious with me, Nicole had kept Mark as a backup option, someone who made her feel desired and gave her attention when things got tough in our relationship. I've gone completely no contact with Nicole now. I blocked her number and social media after she kept trying to explain and apologize. Some of our mutual friends think I'm being too harsh. They say everyone makes mistakes and that Nicole genuinely loves me. Even Steven, who initially supported my decision to leave, suggested I give her another chance. But I know I made the right decision. It wasn't just about what happened on the cruise anymore, it was about the months of lying, the hidden communications, and the emotional affair that followed. Nicole didn't just betray my trust once, she chose to keep betraying it every time she texted Mark or met up with him secretly. My lease for a new apartment starts next week. I'm actually looking forward to having my own space again. These past few months have been tough, but they've taught me a lot about self-respect and boundaries. I've realized that sometimes the person you think is perfect for you isn't really who they seem to be. Amy told me that Nicole is still trying to find ways to contact me through mutual friends. She apparently cries at our friend gatherings about how much she misses me. But I'm done. No amount of tears can make up for the trust she broke. Sometimes walking away is the only way to maintain your self-respect, even if it means letting go of someone you thought you'd spend your life with.